All right, we are back here today working on my PE COFF deep dive project. As always, I'm reminding you that if you haven't already considered it, becoming a supporter or a member is a great way to support these projects. You can do that at mrfort.com/membership. So yesterday, I got started on a whole new part of this project, which is we're kind of done with the researching the we're done with the basic structure of PE and COFF. We can generate them, we can dump them from a dumper, and now we're trying to go one step further and build a visualizer. So this isn't really the research part. This is software construction, and today I'm just setting up some basic starting point features that I'm going to need in order to iterate on this visualizer for a little while. The goal for the visualizer, since I don't think I stated it yesterday, the goal for the visualizer is two parts. There's sort of the payoff for me and the payoff for everyone else. The payoff for me is I'm going to be working on lots of these tools, maybe touching a linker, eventually getting to a visual linker, and also playing with different tools that do generator, object file and executable file generation, and creating a library to help other people do generators and parsers of their own. And so if I'm going to create all that stuff, a tool for me to help me with diagnostics when things go wrong, figuring out what's going wrong, visualizing what I'm doing more clearly, that'll be a great help. And hopefully it'll be a great help to anyone else who wants to do parsing and visualizing, right? So that's the payoff that is immediately useful to the research. There's a secondary benefit, which is that I think a tool like this will allow anyone who tries it out and inspects their programs. If you take an object file and you've never understood what object files and linking are all about, and you start dropping those in, and you start dropping executables in, and you start seeing what they contain, I think it can make these formats feel more familiar if we can actually explore them and visualize what's in them more clearly. So it'll have that additional educational benefit of just giving us a sort of direct sense of what these things are actually about, what they mean. And so those are the two things I want to preserve as I'm building it. But for today, the goal is just to build that base layer of stuff we need that we don't have in my code base right now. Starting with dragging and dropping files. So I want to be able to, right, I can launch my program. It puts all this stuff on there. I want to be able to go, hey, I've gone over here to my build folder, right? And like I'm hanging out here, maybe I put it side by side with this, and I go, okay, mini obj, I'm going to drag it, and I'm going to drop it right here. And you can see right now it's got this little cancel sign. It's like, we can't drop that there, that doesn't mean anything. So here, it means something, it's showing that we're dragging and dropping, and then here, nothing. I want my program to be able to say, I am prepared for you to drop that file, and I will do something useful when you do. And that is what we are going to build today, the ability to set that up and respond to the drop. Okay, so I have one page up here about drag and drop. This is the COM interface version. There is a less complex version that we could look at, which someone in chat has already pointed out, and I wanted to go searching for that too. Using the details they're sending me, I'll be able to get there faster. So something like WM drop files, I believe. Sent when the user drops a file on the window of an application that has registered itself as a recipient of dropped files. A handle to an internal structure describing the dropped file. Pass this handle, drag finish, drag query file, or drag query point to retrieve information about the dropped file. So this will let us get to more information. Okay. And so this doesn't include that drag accept files call that you're pointing out. So let me check out that. Hey Terry, it's Python. Let's just try this things out. This shouldn't be too hard. So if this all works, I should be able to do something like this. We have our visualizer. Okay, we're going to put in a little thing like that. We're trying to get the H wind from our window. So I believe if I go over to something like this, yeah, we can do W32 window W32 window equals, get the W32 low level version. So we are forfeiting our abstraction layer. We're now saying we're Win32 specific with this particular code. We will undo that later. But by making that move, I can now get my hands on the Windows handle, and I can call this unabstracted, so I don't have to define my abstraction layer before I start testing out how this works. Like this. Okay, drag accept files requires shell32.lib, you say. Okay. Tool, welcome. Let's see here. Ooh, it looks like we've got accept files. Linker flags. Okay, so if we see that we're dealing with a graphical application, we now need shell32.lib. Okay, so we have a new symbol now. It's not saying there's anything wrong with dropping. Of course, nothing's happening when we drop. And that's where the second piece comes in, DW or WM drop files. And let's see. In order to handle that, we're going to need to find where we have our... Yeah, here they are. So here we have keyboard stuff, mouse stuff. Mouse and keyboard stuff goes here. Windows stuff. All right. Okay, so it looks like this contains this drop thing. Let's do a little diagramming, a little information diagramming here. So when we get a drop, the h drop is going to provide returns a count of the files dropped, a list of files. The value of this parameter is between 0 and the total number of files dropped. Copies the file name with a corresponding value to the buffer pointed to by... Okay. The address of a buffer that receives the file name of a dropped file when the function returns. The address of a buffer that receives the file name of the dropped file. This file name is a null terminated string. If the parameter is null, drag query file returns the required size in characters of this buffer. Okay, so each file here, these are file names. This is a list of file names, right? So really we're talking about a list of strings. If we keep lowering down lower and lower level of the buffer. So this is the required size in characters of the buffer. Non-zero value indicates a successful call. When the function copies a file into the buffer, the return value is the count of the characters copied, not including the terminating null character. If the index value, if the index value is between, note the index unchanged, therefore remains. Note the index variable itself returns unchanged and therefore remains. Oh, okay. If the index value is between 0 and the total number of dropped files, and the buffer address is null, the return value is the required size in characters of the buffer, not including. If the index value is between the address, not including the terminating null character, returns the required size in characters of this buffer, not including the terminating null character, not including it, not the required size of the buffer, but the required size of the buffer, not including the terminating null character. Okay. Okay. Okay, so something like where did the H drop come from? All right, so we want to create a list sort of thing with boom. Okay, so when that's done, drag query point will be good to have. You are so right. Scratch arena. There we go. So this gives us the full Unicode version of the file name in UTF-16, and then we convert it to UTF-8 with this function, and then we pass it through. And we use the Scratch arena to grab the buff16. Cool. The window for which coordinates are returned is the window that receives the WM drop files message. Okay, so what they're trying to say is relative to the window. Coordinate client space coordinates. UTF conversions aren't that bad. Most Unicode stuff is scary, but the actual encoding conversions aren't that bad because it's just a sequence of, basically a Unicode file is a sequence of 32-bit integers, or 21-bit integers, more accurately, and UTF-8 and UTF-16 are just sort of ways of packing those that is a basic compression, you know. So you're just kind of decoding one 32-bit integer at a time and re-encoding it the other way. And the encode decode steps are like, you know, they're like this, right? It takes a little bit of work to, this is like all fancy schmancy. I put some work into it. I actually used someone else's ideas a little bit on some open source code to come up with a way to do it that runs a little fast, but like it's just you figure out what you figure out what case you're in and pull out the integer and advance the pointer on your buffer. It's kind of it. Okay, once we've got that and the drop point, what does the finish do? Releases memory that the system allocated for use in transferring file names to the application. Weirdly, there's nothing here saying that I need to call drag query or drag finish, right? Okay, so I think at this point, we call this, and then we want to emit an event. A file drop event. We're gonna have to go and look at this structure and what it's capable of right now. Okay, so it does not know about I'm gonna make this an extension type, so we're gonna be like graphics file drop data. That's gonna be a list of strings, so files, and a point, and we're gonna have right here the ability to attach these special things as extensions like that. Okay, so we have a new input event kind, which is file drop. Cool. All right, so now I'm gonna pull up a remedy and see if that works. I'm just gonna see if we get that far. Let's see, we're actually working on the Win32 graphics layer today, of all things. And we want to see that event. All right. Right, you don't know about the path yet. We put the data over here in data PEViz, select folder. Okay. Again, I want this one and this one side by side. Take my mini OBJ and I go bloop. And there we go. Now we can take a look at our event. Looks like we've got a file drop. We don't have any of these, which makes sense. But then what do we have here? Well, we have a point inside the window and a list of files. And we have one node on that list. And it says, and hey, there's a full path. See Mr. Forth build mini.obj, a full path to my file. Okay. Okay. So it looks like that works, right? The only thing left to do is over here, so we're just going to set a display string like that whenever we want to this is going to just become this, and then during init, out of here. Okay. Nothing's happening because I don't handle that event yet. Okay, so there's our input helper. And now there we go. We haven't handled lib files before. We should probably do that sometime. Put that on the to-do list. But we are one step closer. Okay. That's a pretty good spot for me to put in a commit, because we just did some base layer upgrades. Technically input layer upgrades. So I do have stuff for multi-file drop. I don't see any easy way to test that, but it does work. Like the data structure carries through the string list. So if there is any bug, it's only a bug of the list somehow only containing the first element. But I don't have Like, I guess the way to test that would be to have something like this. Like, okay, instead of doing this, why don't we do... Alright, let's just do it. We'll do it. Don't overthink it. Here we go. Join.mid equals new line character, straight join. Scratch arena, file data, join parameters, names, right? And then we just need to grab a scratch. There you go. I mean, I was dragging multiple files. It just only showed one of them because I didn't set the thing up. But there it is, right? Grabs multiple files. Yeah, fine, good. So, what's next? I want to commit this. Hold on, I want to actually go. I have to do something privately real quick. Go and check out the commit history here. So I'm gonna have to sign into the closed version of the repository. Take a look at the commit history here. Now, somewhere at some point in the past, I did work on the input system. So my tags were input and win32. That makes sense. Drop in support file drops onto Windows. Oh wait, you know what? We're not actually done with this yet. I've done the abstraction for the events, but I want to come down here and do the abstraction for this real quick. Create a window, graphics window, enable drops. Okay. Put that up against the abstracted version. Like this. Boom. Same thing. Still works. Very good. Now I'll commit it. Cool. Okay, so we got that much done. Now, let's see. Copy text to clipboard. I'm gonna just do everything besides the stuff that is actually like UI implementation, the stuff that is slightly lower level. First, so copy text to clipboard. I think we actually already have that in the base layer these days. Yeah, so I can already set strings on the clipboard. Let's say let's knock two birds out with one stone here. Use hotkey to set clipboard. Control copy, control paste. There we go. There it is. Just to be sure, pop in over here, copy and paste again. Okay. Very good. So that's copy text to clipboard, hotkeys. Okay. So here, there's I want to do like the standard, you know, this kind of thing. So that's let's take a look. Okay, so specific. Here we go. Okay, so we have to fill out an open file name structure and pass it right here. I'm just going to call this pram, I think. So what are we dealing with? Okay, let's try that again. A handle to the window that owns the dialog box. This member can be any valid window handle, or it can be null if the dialog box has no owner. What happens if it's null? Let's find out. Each instance. If the enable template handle flag is set in the flags member, each instance is a handle to a memory object containing a dialog box template. If enable template flag is set, each instance is a handle to a module that contains a dialog box template named by the LP template name member. If neither flag is set, this member is ignored. Okay. A buffer containing pairs of null terminated filter strings. The last string in the buffer must be terminated by 2 null characters. Okay, so it's a null terminated list of null terminated strings. The first string in each pair is a display string that describes the filter, for example, text files. The second string specifies the filter pattern, for example, .txt. To specify multiple filter patterns for a single display string, use a semicolon to separate the patterns. For example, .txt semicolon .doc semicolon .back semicolon, or no semicolon. A pattern string can be a combination of valid file name characters, and the asterisk wildcard do not include spaces in the pattern string. Okay? Okay. A static buffer that contains a pair of null terminated filter strings. Okay, okay. Okay, so this would be something we could actually work with. Do I want to build out this transform right now? Basically, the input type would be this set of pairs, and the output type would be this baked string. It's just a couple of string joins to get the whole thing together. For now, I'll just leave it null. I'll leave it to do here that says Okay. A static buffer that contains a pair of null-terminated filter strings for preserving the filter pattern chosen by the user. The first string is your display string that describes the custom filter. The second string is the filter pattern selected by the user. The first time your application creates the dialog box, you specify the first string, which can be any non-empty string. When the user selects a file, the dialog box copies the current filter pattern to the second string. The preserved filter pattern can be one of the patterns specified in the LP string filter buffer, or it can be a filter pattern typed by the user. The system uses the string to initialize the user-defined file filter the next time the dialog box is created. If the end filter index member is 0, this member is null. Okay, so this is our return string, isn't it? Yeah, that's why there's a max right afterwards. It's a buffer for them to fill. Okay. Interesting question or thought. Let me check and see how things are working over here. Key down. Something I don't have here that I know I always need is the loss of focus. So I think loss of focus would cover what you're talking about, if I remember correctly. What BYP is pointing out is that if you hit Control O, you're going to get this dialog box blocking your main thread. And so you're going to miss the release event for that key. You can see here, though, that like for at least the purpose of getting my flags right, I query the state directly. I don't track it external to the thread. So this would presumably get it right. However, I still would miss that release event, and I don't have like a lose focus event for getting the full reset whenever that happens. So it's worth thinking about things I need to do to improve my input system still. The index of the currently selected filter in the file types control. The buffer pointed to by LP stir filter contains pairs of strings that define the filters. The first pair of strings has an index value of 1, the second pair 2, and so on. An index of 0 indicates the custom filter specified by LP stir custom filter. You can specify an index on input to indicate the initial filter description and filter pattern for the dialog box. When the user selects a file and filter index returns the index of the currently displayed filter. If it's 0, the output is null. The system uses the first filter. 3 members are 0 or null. The system does not use any filters and does not show any files in the file list control of the dialog box. Okay. LP stir file. The file name used to initialize the file name edit control. The first character of this buffer must be null if initialization is not necessary. When get open file name or get save file name function returns successfully, this buffer contains the drive designator path file name and extension of the selected file. Okay, so this is a buffer. Okay, so we need a buffer. Terrible API, folks. This is not what you want to see, but we're working with it. Let's just grab a 4K buffer. Right, this is a U16 kind of situation. File title. The file name and extension without path information of the selected file. This member can be null. Don't need that. The initial directory. The algorithm for selecting the initial directory varies on different platforms. Don't care too much about that right now. This might be a spot where we could maybe do this, but it's no big deal. Title. A string to be placed in the title bar of the dialog box. If this member is null, the system uses the default title. Okay, so we could actually do this one. This one's not that big a deal. There we go. Okay, flags. What do we have for flags? A set of bit flags you can use to initialize the dialog box. When the dialog box returns, it sets these flags to indicate the user's input. This member can be a combination of the following flags. The file name list box allows multiple selections. If you also set the Explorer flag, the dialog box uses Explorer style user interface, otherwise it uses the old style user interface. We definitely want to see the difference between those. Create prompt. If the user specifies a file that does not exist, the flag causes the dialog box to prompt the user for permission to create the file. If the user chooses to create the file, the dialog box closes and the function returns the specified name. Otherwise, the dialog box remains open. If you use the flag with the OFN allow multiple select flag, the dialog box allows the user to specify only one non-existent file. Okay. Don't add to recent. Prevents the system from adding a link to the selected file in the file system directory that contains the user's most recently used documents. To retrieve the location of this directory, call blah 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 blah. Don't care. Enable hook. Enables the hook function specified in LPFN hook member. Don't care. Enable include notify. Causes the dialog box to send CDN include item notification messages to the OFN hook proc. Blah, blah, don't care. Enable sizing. Enables the Explorer style dialog box to be resized using either the mouse or the keyboard. By default, the Explorer style open and save as dialog boxes allow the dialog box to be resized regardless of whether this flag is set. This flag is necessary only if you provide a hook. No thanks. Enable template. Don't care. Enable template handle. No, we already read about that. We don't care. Explorer indicates that any customizations made to open or save as dialog box use the Explorer style customization method. For more information, see Explorer style hook procedures, Explorer style custom templates. By default, the open and save dialog boxes use the Explorer style user interface regardless of whether this flag is set. This flag is necessary only if you provide a hook procedure or custom template, or set the allow multiple select flag. If you want the old style user interface, omit the OFN Explorer flag and provide a replacement old style template or hook procedure. If you want the old style but do not need a custom template or hook procedure, simply provide a hook procedure that always returns false. Okay, extension different. The user typed a file name extension that differs from the extension specified by lp-stir defext. The function does not use this flag if lp det. That's weird. That's a flag that you return to me, I guess. I don't know. File must exist. The user can type only names of existing files in the file name entry field. If this flag is specified and the user enters an invalid name, the dialog box procedure displays a warning in a message box. If this flag is specified, the path must exist flag is also used. This flag can be used in an open dialog box. It cannot be used with a save as dialog box. Forces show hidden. Forces the showing of system and hidden files. Let's override in the user setting to show or not show hidden files. However, a file that is marked both system and hidden is not shown. Okay. Hides the read-only checkbox. Long names. For old style dialog boxes, this flag causes the dialog box to use long file names if the flag is not specified, or if OFN allow multiple select flag is also set. The old style dialog box uses short file names. For file names with spaces, Explorer style dialog boxes ignore this flag and always display long file names. Restores the current directory to its original value if the user changed the directory while searching for files. Yes. This flag is ineffective for get open file name. Why? Okay. So that's good to know. This is going to change the current working directory. We're going to play with that today. We're going to play with that. Directs the dialog box to return the path and file name of the selected shortcut. If this value is not specified, the dialog box returns the path and file name of the file referenced by the shortcut. No long names. For old style dialog boxes, this flag causes the dialog box to use short file names. Explorer style dialog boxes ignore this flag and always display long file names. No network button hides and disables the network button. No read-only return. The return file does not have the read-only checkbox selected and is not in a write-protected directory. That's feedback to me. Notes. No test file create. The file is not created before the dialog box is closed. This flag should be specified if the application saves the file on a create non-modify network share. No validate. The common dialog box is allow invalid characters in the return file name. Typically, the calling application uses a hook procedure that checks the file name by using the file case string message. If the text box in the edit control is empty or contains nothing but spaces, the lists of files and directories are updated. If the text box in the edit control contains anything else, end file offset and end file extensions are set to the values generated by parsing the text. No default extension is added to the text, nor is the text copied to the buffer specified by the LP stir file title. If the value specified by end file offset is less than 0, the file name is invalid. Otherwise, the file name is valid. Don't care. Okay. So of all those, I don't think I need to set a single one of them to get the default behavior that I want, but I did get a hint that the current directory might change. Okay, so flags can be 0. End file offset, the 0-based offset in characters from the beginning of the path to the file name in the string pointed to by lp-stir file. For the ANSI version, this is the number of bytes. For the Unicode version, this is the number of characters. For example, if the lp-stir file points to the following string, c:/dir1 dir2 file.ext, the members contains the value 13 to indicate the offset of file.exe string. If the user selects more than one file, end file offset is the number of... Okay. That's output back to me. The zero-based offset in characters to the file extension, again, output back to me, just ignoring these. defx, the default extension, get open file name and get save file name, append this extension to the file name. If the user fails to type an extension, the string can be any length, but only the first 3 characters are appended. The string should not contain a period if the member is null, and the user fails to type an extension, no extension is appended. We're going to go with none for now. It's good to know that that's an option, because when I go to abstract this, that might be something I want to be able to support. Again, a part of what's hard about this is I haven't done this on Mac or Linux, so I don't know what features are common and easy to support the same way across the platforms. So I might have to go and leave a little note like this. It's like, okay, open save dialog box abstraction. Cust data. All right. Application defined data that the system passes to the hook procedure identified by the LPFN hook member. When the system sends the WM init dialog message to the hook procedure, the message's lparam parameter is a pointer to the open file name structure specified when the dialog box was created. The hook procedure can use this pointer to get the lcust data value. Don't care. Hook, pretty sure we don't care. A pointer to a hook procedure. This member is ignored unless the flags. It includes the enable hook flag. Yeah, we're not doing that. What do you even do with the hook, though? If the explorer flag is not set, the flags member, the is a pointer to an OFN hook, old style hook that produces procedure. Hook procedure that receives messages intended for the dialog box. The hook procedure returns false to pass a message to the default dialog box procedure, or true to discard the message. Set LPFN hook as a pointer to OFN hook procedure. The hook procedure receives notification messages from the dialog box. The hook procedure also receives messages for any additional controls that you defined by specifying a child dialog template. Blah, 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 blah. The hook procedure does not receive messages intended for the standard controls of the default dialog box. Okay, so this is basically the window message handling for the new dialog box. Don't care. Template name, the name of the dialog template resource in the module identified by H instance. We're not doing that. That's funny, BYP. I like that idea. Speaking of which, why am I not putting on some 24-hour beats to read MSDN to? This member is conditionally edit info. This member is conditionally compiled using ifdefmax so that it is applicable only to Motorola 68K Macintosh computers and not to Windows client operating systems. Cool. This member is conditionally compiled so that it is only Motorola Macintosh. Okay. This member is reserved. This member is reserved. The set of bit flags you can use to initialize the dialog box. Currently, this member can be 0 or the following flag. EX no places bar. If this flag is set, the places bar is not displayed. If the flag is not set, Explorer style dialog boxes include a places bar containing icons for commonly used folders such as favorites and desktops. Okay. Cool. Okay, that seems like a pretty useful set to start with. Do we build? Right, of course. Right, of course. You're not looking for a string 16. You're looking just for this, aren't you? And you're not going to tell me which library to include, though? That's unusual. Here. Common dialog 32.lib. There we go. Hey, hey, look at that. Control O pulled me right to here. Which is interesting. I'm going to track down why it would have chosen that spot. But I want to see if I go look at something like this. Yeah, that just does what you'd expect. So what we want to do now is sand off some corners here. Okay, so the next big steps here are we need to track down, or we need to think about the kinds of things, like we need a list of all the little things that need to be checked out and figured out here. So we need to actually get the opened file name after using the dialog. Then we need to check keyboard states are looking good. And then we need to wrap into an abstracted API. Just a guess for now. Okay. So, it's not quite parent. It's more like just the in out. I don't know. What we want to do is we want to get, while we're at it, I'm gonna shrink this now. I think afterwards what should happen is that the buffer should now be filled. Provides user interface features that are similar to Windows Explorer. You can provide an open... Windows continues to support old-style open dialog box. To display a dialog without when selecting return. If the user specifies a file name and clicks the OK button, the return value is non-zero. The buffer pointed to by the LPSER file number of the structure contains the full path and file name specified by the user. If the user cancels or closes the open dialog box or an error occurs, the return value is 0. They get extended error information. Okay, so we want to go got file equals if we got a file, or let's see, specified a file. If we specified a file, then we want to be able to get our file, which we're going to do in the following way. File name equals straight from str16 scratch arena str16 All right, so we just want to be able to see that file name in the debugger. Oops, okay. Okay, so that seems good. Seems like we can get the file name back. Now, I want to check out this idea that the important message is going to get missed. That's going to be a little bit interesting to check for. Release, okay. Release, mini obj. Okay, so it's true, I miss all the release events there. What I want to see is, do I get a lost focus event? Do IBM lose focus? Something like this. Kill focus. Send to a window immediately before it loses keyboard focus. Okay. That's the one we need to know about. Yay, the paste bug. Still don't know about that one's solution. Don't understand why these wouldn't have a window on them. Okay, so I believe what should happen is that in addition to not these ones. In addition to opening the dialog box, this should also trigger a loss of the keyboard focus. And there it is. So now, when I open the dialog box, I know that I'm missing key ups because I lost keyboard focus. So if a user is using key ups and key downs to track the state of the keyboard, they are expected to say, whenever a window lose focus happens, you clear all things. It's like everything gets released. That's the best way I know how to clean it up. And it's not actually accurate. It's possible to regain focus and to still have key presses that are, still be halfway through a key press. If you ever watched a half an A press video, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's possible to come into a scenario with a key held down, and this would not detect that was happening because we only get events when the down happens, not as it's being held. But we would usually get something like a repeat code or something in that case. Well, would we? I bet you we don't, now that I think about it. Here, I'll show you. We want to see when we are not released and we were held down previously. So that's a repeat. And that looks like this. right? So there we go. We just got a repeat because I held the C key down. So when I first pressed it, we didn't get anything, but now I'm getting the C repeat. Now, let's say I'm here, and I press C, and I click off, and I click back on. Yeah, it still receives the repeat. Cool. So there you go. Okay. So that's how we'll deal with keyboard states. All right, finally, we'll wrap that up into an abstracted API of its own. So this would be something like we want a title. We're going to need an arena. And we're going to need some So this suddenly becomes something like graphics, open file box, scratch arena, open a file, if we get back a result, then we're going to set display equal to the new file name, like that. And now this becomes our implementation block. This becomes our function signature starting point. Win32 graphics impl message box is the function before us. Here's the signature, open the block, here's the implementation, and now we just have to massage this to match the signature suggested by the protocol. Gonna need a scratch arena. From 8 onto the scratch arena. Here's the title. And so this becomes title.stir. Okay, if we haven't done either of those features yet, this goes on the output arena now, because we actually plan on using it and returning it. And then what we're going to do is go... Actually, we're going to do something like this. Fill result. Push an array onto arena 1, open file result. Boom! There we are. And just to be clear, that right there, that, this thing, also, why is the resizing all busted? Something's off. Hold on. Why is that garbage? Open file box. Title. Title 16, please. Boom. Boom. Open a file. So that's good. Why can't I resize this, though? I thought that was going to be a default available feature. Just try it. See if we need to do this. Maybe. I don't get it. It's not enabling sizing at all. And it like won't even let me move the thing around at this point. I can use the Windows keys to move it around. Okay, now I can move it. Okay, now it's fine. What was it like when it got big like this? I couldn't unbig it for some reason. So I had to do this. That's not good. So something is off. Okay. I want to see what happens if I do something like... set the owner. That might make it behave better. Thought it was behaving well, but I didn't test it out thoroughly. So now I have to develop it within the... I have to develop it alongside the abstraction. Not my favorite thing to do. Don't love how it feels, but here we go. Say I did pass a window down and I said something like... Okay, so now it won't let me switch over to that window, which is good. It still behaves funny when I do that. Let me go and check some stuff out here. When I grab you, okay, so that all works, but you don't do, okay, there's full screen. Oh, now you're busted. Okay. Okay, so that's just how dialog boxes behave, I guess. I don't know. Seems like it, though. Okay. Boom. Okay. I think that'll cover it. So we got that and that done. I think, you know what? I think this is a good spot for us to wrap up today. So progress is I've done the clipboard, the drag and drop a file, got my, I've confirmed my keyboard input is working so I can do hotkeys. Open file dialog box stuff is up and running. So all of that has been checked off today. All that's left to begin the jam now is to do my mouse interactions myself. That'll be the first thing I actually have to do if I start working on this for the jam. Speaking of which, here's a quick reminder of what my schedule coming up is going to be like. We've got tomorrow, I am taking off. Friday, I have 10:30 a.m. 4-coder Friday, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. We're doing 4-coder Friday. Haven't decided exactly what we'll be looking at yet in 4-coder, but something or other. We'll look into another aspect of the 4-coder project and see what thoughts I have about it. Then on Friday afternoon, 2 p.m. Pacific time, I'm going to pull out my list of jam ideas, kind of discuss and do any prep work, like stuff like this. If I end up working on the PE visualizer for the jam, I might do the rest of the prep work of getting my mouse inputs and buttons ready to go so that when the time comes to actually work on the jam, I'll just be focused on object files and executable files and laying them out on the screen. So that'll be what I'm doing on Friday afternoon. And then the jam itself starts Monday, the 23rd. I will be streaming every day for the entire jam, working on that project that entire week, 23rd through the 29th, trying to make something cool. We're not sure yet what that'll be. Like I said, I'll decide that on Friday, so come check that out at 2 p.m. Pacific time. I also might be appearing, I know that today Abner, Coinbray, and BYP have been talking about hopping on stream to work on Abner's 4-coder customization. If that is still happening today, then when they do that, I might hang out there, so you could see me there too. And I recommend checking it out if you're interested in 4-coder stuff. BYP is really good at customizing. Abner is trying to get Vim set up and set up to his liking, so I think it'll be interesting to check that out. And with that, I'm going to wrap up for today. Remember, you can go check out mrforth.com/membership to support all of these projects that I've got going on. Thanks for checking out what I'm doing, and I'll see you around the internet. Bye.